He was a broke, black single dad, crying alone at a stranger's grave. Then a millionaire widow walked up and asked, "That's my husband's grave. Who are you?" What happened next will break your heart, and put it back together. Late afternoon wind cut through the cemetery as a man knelt before a simple grave. His dark hands were rough, calloused. The cheap bouquet trembled as he set it down. Tears fell onto the stone marker bearing a name he would never forget. A voice broke the silence behind him, cold but controlled. "That's my husband's grave. Who are you? Why are you crying here?" He froze, turned. A woman in an expensive coat stood there, eyes sharp with grief and suspicion. He clutched the flowers tighter. What was a poor single father doing at a millionaire's husband's grave? The man stood slowly, his broad shoulders sagged with exhaustion. His jacket was worn thin at the elbows. His boots had seen too many winters. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracked. "I didn't mean to intrude." The woman stepped closer. Her coat was tailored, expensive, but her face carried the kind of tiredness money couldn't fix. "You didn't answer my question." Catherine Brooks's tones softened slightly. "Who are you?" He looked down at the grave. The name engraved there felt heavier than stone. "My name is Darnell. Your husband saved my life." Catherine went still. "What do you mean?" Darnell's hands tightened around the bouquet. He had rehearsed this moment 100 times in his head. It never got easier. 3 years ago I was living in my car with my daughter. She was 4. We had nothing. I'd lost everything. My wife left, the business failed, the bank took the house. I couldn't even afford to feed my kid. He looked at Catherine. Her expression hadn't changed, but something in her eyes shifted. "I was sitting outside a diner one night," Darnell continued. "Zoe was asleep in the back seat. I was trying to figure out how to make $5 last until the weekend. Your husband walked out. I'd never seen him before. He saw me, saw the car, saw my daughter." Darnell's voice dropped. "He came over and asked if I needed help. I told him no. I was too proud, too ashamed. But he didn't leave. He sat down next to me on the curb. He pulled out a pack of peppermint candies and offered me one." Catherine's breath caught, barely audible, but Darnell heard it. He said something I'll never forget. He said, "Kindness doesn't need a reason. It just needs a moment." The wind picked up. Dead leaves scraped across the path. He gave me an envelope, told me not to open it until he left. Inside was enough money to get an apartment, first month's rent, security deposit, enough to start over. Darnell's voice broke. "He told me not to pay him back. He said, when you're standing again, help someone else." Catherine stared at the grave, her lips pressed into a thin line. "I never saw him again," Darnell said quietly. "I tried to find him. I wanted to thank him, to show him that I made it, that Zoe was okay, but I didn't even know his full name. Then 2 weeks ago I saw his obituary in the paper." He knelt down again and placed the flowers gently against the headstone. "So I came here to say what I should have said years ago. Thank you." For a long time neither of them spoke. The cemetery was silent except for the distant hum of traffic. Catherine finally moved. She stepped forward and stood beside the grave. Her hand rested lightly on the top of the stone. "Jonathan never told me about this." Her voice was steady, but there was something raw beneath it. "He never told me about you, about your daughter." She looked at Darnell. "He was always private about his charity work. He used to say that real generosity doesn't need applause. That if you do something good just to be recognized, it's not really kindness, it's performance." She let out a slow breath. "But I didn't know he helped people like this, quietly, individually." Darnell wiped his face with the back of his hand. "He didn't just help me. He gave me hope. I was ready to give up. I thought I'd failed my daughter. But he showed me that people still cared, that the world wasn't as cold as I thought." Catherine looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a business card. She held it out to him. "If you ever need anything, call me." That's what Jonathan would want. Darnell stared at the card. He didn't take it at first. I can't. I didn't come here to ask for help. Catherine's expression didn't change. I know. But take it anyway. He hesitated, then reached out and took the card. It was simple, white, her name printed in clean black letters, Catherine Brooks. Below it, a phone number. There's something else, Catherine said. She glanced back at the grave. My brother-in-law David is helping manage a charity foundation in Jonathan's name. If you want to give back the way Jonathan asked you to, you could reach out through that. Darnell nodded slowly. He didn't trust himself to speak. Catherine turned to leave, then stopped. Your daughter Zoe, how old is she now? 7. Is she okay? Darnell managed a small smile. She's tough, tougher than me. Catherine nodded. Something flickered across her face, sadness or maybe recognition. Take care of her. Then she walked away. Her footsteps faded down the path. Darnell stood there alone, holding the business card in his hand. The grave was quiet. The flowers rested against the stone. He whispered one last time, "Thank you, Jonathan." Then he left. The weeks that followed were harder than Darnell expected. He'd been working 2 jobs, warehouse by day, cleaning offices at night. It wasn't much, but it kept a roof over their heads. Zoe was in school, she had friends, she smiled again. Then the warehouse shut down, no warning, just a notice on the door, budget cuts. He still had the cleaning job, but the landlord raised the rent $200 a month. Darnell started looking for work, every diner, every shop, every warehouse, nothing. Then Zoe got sick. It started as a cough, then fever, then she couldn't get out of bed. The clinic said pneumonia, gave antibiotics. The bill was $300 he didn't have. 2 days later the fever climbed higher. The apartment was freezing, the heat broken for weeks. Darnell sat on the edge of her bed and watched her sleep, breathing shallow, skin burning. He opened the drawer, found the business card, stared at it a long time. So he coughed, a wet rattling sound. He dialed. It rang twice. Hello? Catherine, this is Darnell. We met at the cemetery. I don't know if you remember. I remember. What's wrong? I'm sorry to bother you. I didn't want to call, but my daughter is really sick and I don't have anywhere else to turn. Where are you? He told her the address. Stay there, Catherine said. I'm coming. She arrived 40 minutes later in a black sedan. She walked straight into the freezing apartment, saw Zoe curled under blankets, breathing uneven. Catherine knelt, touched her forehead. Too hot. How long? 2 days. The antibiotics aren't working. I can't afford the hospital. Catherine stood. Pack what you need. You're both coming with me. I can't ask. You're not asking. I'm telling you. This apartment is freezing. Your daughter needs warmth. I have a guest house. It's empty. You'll stay there until she's better. Darnell looked at Zoe, then back at Catherine. Okay. Catherine lifted Zoe herself, the girl light in her arms. They drove in silence to a massive house of glass and stone. The guest house was warm, clean, fireplace crackling. Catherine called her doctor. He came within the hour, examined Zoe, wrote new prescriptions. Don't worry about the cost, Catherine said. Zoe's fever broke 2 days later. Color came back to her cheeks. She started eating, smiling again. But Darnell couldn't sit still. Guilt ate at him. On the 3rd day he started fixing things around the property, loose stones, weeds, a squeaking gate. Then he saw the broken wind chime hanging silent in the garden. He took it down, repaired it that night, sanded, polished the wood, restrung the pieces. Next morning he hung it back. Catherine found it that afternoon. She stood beneath the tree, listening to the soft, clear notes. Her hand covered her mouth. She didn't speak, just listened for a long time. Later she knocked on the guest house door. You fixed the wind chime. I noticed it was broken. I hope that's okay. Jonathan hung that 5 years ago. It broke last winter. I couldn't take it down, but I couldn't fix it either. She looked past him at Zoe coloring at the table. Thank you. The next week Zoe finished a drawing, 3 figures holding hands under a bright sun. She ran barefoot to the main house and gave it to Catherine. Catherine looked at the picture a long time. The hard lines in her face softened. Then she smiled, small, fragile, but real. Would you both like to come in for a minute? They did. Zoe talked nonstop. Catherine listened, laughed, asked questions. For a moment the big house didn't feel empty anymore. A few days later in the garden Catherine said, "The foundation needs help. We're understaffed since Jonathan passed. There's a position, administrative work, organizing events, helping people who need it. If you want to give back the way he asked, it's yours." Darnell could only whisper, "I'd like that." "Thank you." He started the next week. The office walls were covered with photos of people Jonathan had helped. On the desk sat a glass jar of peppermint candies. Darnell touched it and smiled through tears. But not everyone was happy. Jonathan's brother David cornered Darnell one afternoon. "You're living in her guest house, working at his foundation, eating dinner with her every night. You're taking his place." The words cut deep. That night Darnell packed the duffel bag again. By morning he and Zoe were gone, a short note left behind. "Thank you. I don't want you to feel conflicted because of us." Catherine found the empty house 20 minutes later. She found the new drawing on Zoe's pillow, 3 people, a house, a wind chime. She ran to her car, heart racing, drove until she spotted them at the bus stop, Zoe crying into her dad's jacket. Catherine stopped the car, walked up fast. "Why did you leave?" "Because David was right. I don't belong there. David doesn't get to decide that. He's your family. I'm just the guy your husband helped once." Catherine's voice cracked. "You're the person who fixed his wind chime. You're the person who made my house feel like a home again. You're the person who gave me a reason to get out of bed." She looked at Zoe, then back at Darnell. "The worst part of losing Jonathan wasn't the grief. It was the loneliness, waking up every day knowing no one needed me anymore. Then you called, and I felt needed again." Zoe tugged Darnell's sleeve. "Dad, please. I don't want to leave." Darnell looked at his daughter, then at Catherine. "I'm scared I'm not good enough." "We're all scared," Catherine said. "But we don't have to be scared alone." Zoe ran and hugged Catherine's legs. "Please don't let us go." Catherine knelt, held her tight, tears falling. "I won't. I promise." Darnell picked up the bag, and they went home. They went to the cemetery first. Catherine placed her hand on Jonathan's stone. "I've been holding on so tightly I forgot how to let go. But you always said love is something to share, not hoard. You saved them once, Jonathan. Now it's my turn." Zoe put her tiny hand on the stone. "Thank you for helping my dad, Mr. Jonathan. I wish I could have met you." Even David showed up that day. He apologized, voice quiet. "Jonathan would have wanted you happy, Catherine. If they make you happy, that's enough." Months passed. The guest house became home. Dinners moved to the main house. Laughter filled rooms that had been silent too long. One morning Catherine found Jonathan's last letter in his desk. She read it to Darnell under the singing wind chime. "Don't let grief close your heart. When you're ready, open it again. Let people in. Let yourself love and be loved. I'll be cheering you on." 3 months later Zoe's drawing hung on the wall of the main house, 3 people holding hands under the sun. Underneath, in her careful handwriting, "We didn't replace anyone. We became a family." Every morning Catherine stood in front of it and smiled. Outside, the wind chimes sang. Inside, Zoe laughed. Darnell made coffee. And the house that had been empty for so long was full again. Not with the past, but with the present, and a future brighter than any of them dared hope.